Very welcome back from Brekete Family, where an ordinary man is doing extraordinary thing, and I think that is what posterity will remember him for. Very quickly, we're going to be looking at public service, Nigerian public service, and its management. We're talking about its delivery. We ended by saying that what are you going to be remembered for success or for value? We have with us one who would want to talk about it. But before then, yes, I have with me now Pius, my troublesome colleague, but I'm coping with him anyhow. Trust me, I cope. Pius, good morning.
Good morning, Lucy. You know I'm not troublesome. I
I
was just trying
think
to
you,
pull my legs.
I think you are. Mr. Okay, good morning too. Yeah, he is our guest, AkinOke, and he is a governance consultant. Pius, you want to start with him?
Yeah, let me start with him because I know that the civil service is characterized with a whole lot of lackadaisical attitude coming from the workers' angle, and most of the times you find out even those at the helms of affairs talking about directors and PAMSECs and all that get to the office pretty late, and we also discovered that not that they really have something very very tangible that most of the times is connected to their official functions and all of that. Maybe the feeling that I'm the boss, I can get there at any point in time. Is this actually healthy for our public service sector?
Well, thank you for that intro. I think one of the key challenges we have is defining what's the public service. Now, when you use the word public service, you are talking of two institutions within the public sector. You're talking about the civil service and the public servants. Now, the civil service is the bureaucracy of government, whereas the public service are those either you're elected or appointed into roles to run the policy of government. Now, Nigeria is in an interesting position in terms of delivering services because the public sector, both arms of the public sector, sometimes don't work together and they don't have clear objectives that they share. And what you get at the end of the day is what we term as service failure. Because at that point, public goods and services which the state ordinarily should provide to citizens don't get delivered. And when it doesn't get delivered, that's when you pick it up in the media.
Okay.
But the backroom work that needs to happen is called what you call the public service bargain. This must happen between the elected officials on one hand and the civil service bureaucracy on the other hand. Where you have this disconnect in Nigeria, and particularly where it hurts us, is because there's a level of performance management failure in the civil service. Now, I use that term carefully because performance management is a bit tricky. In the civil service, where individual staff performance is a bit difficult to measure if you don't look at the team performance as well. Now, where there are no clear guidelines as to what to deliver, where there are no clear objectives, where there are no clear performance targets, then everything goes. And that's where we are. You have all kinds of pieces of performance frameworks, but none of them goes to the heart of defining how the citizens receive services from government. And the citizens, on the other hand, don't also know what to expect from government. So part of what has happened in the past has been some reforms around service delivery to say, okay, let every MDA, for example, ministries, department, agencies, let them define a service charter. Now, there is a level of compliance, a significant level of compliance with that. But even in that, there is a lack of understanding as to how you sit in a government office, you get paid monthly, but what you deliver to the citizens, how you conceptualize that and define that into tangible things is still lost in the system. And that's where I think you're coming from.
Okay, yeah, it's New Day. We're talking to AkinOke. He's a governance consultant. You may want to be a part of this program by putting a call across to us to the numbers that are on your screen right now. You want to ask him a question, you want to make a contribution to this topic. Has the civil service been doing well? Has it failed us? What can we do in moving forward? I want to find out, yes, your intro is very beautiful too. Why do we have a continuum of civil servants or public servants, as the case may be, stealing our money? It's a system, it's a continuum, and it's alarming. Last week I read of a woman, it's still an allegation though, paying herself 60 million monthly. And where are the checks and balances?
Well, there are two issues you just raised.
Yeah.
The first issue is, why do we have corruption in the system?
Yes.
Now, there's a nexus between corruption and service failure, and this is what is lost in the conversation when you have activists and people raising alarm over things. Now, service delivery is hinged on the public sector, the public service, both the elected officials and
The workers,
the civil servants, recognizing that the primary objective is to deliver goods and services for which government is responsible, simply because it's cheaper for government to provide it. It's a significant function of government to provide these key goods that are common to the citizens. Now, when this fails, because there are no standards, because nobody ensures the standards are followed, then citizens resort to extra, state means, and that's where corruption comes in. Now, we've come to a point where we've gotten used to using these extra straight means, in quote, to achieve the objectives of government. And so those who are charged with delivering the services to citizens and are paid and maintained to do this don't really see any reason why they should, because nobody holds them accountable, because there is no standard to hold them accountable.
Okay.
And when standards are available in some cases, citizens are unable to enforce their rights.
Because they do not know those rights.
Yes, primarily because they
do not know it.
Secondly, because sometimes there is no political will to get those things done for the citizens.
Because when the citizens cry, nobody's there to listen.
Now, in a democracy, that should not be the case.
That is it.
And so, I mean, we say we are in nascent democracy after 16 years.
After 16 years, we're not nascent anymore.
But the question now is, how much of the political discourse and the political exchange happens around the service delivery issue? I was looking at it's no longer a new government, and I looked at the manifesto, and I saw all kinds of beautiful points. 1, 2, 3, we're going to do 20 million, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How do you break that down into simple service delivery metrics? So, for example, you are looking at the Minister of Health. How long does it take to see a doctor in a Nigerian hospital? I'm not sure we have that data across board. Now, you are asking the school system, how many teachers do we need to take care of the students that we have? And then what kind of incentives need to go into helping those who are actually delivering a service? Because I've sat in the government office for a couple of years as a consultant. Okay. I know within the system there are people who genuinely want to deliver services. But
the system truncates it.
Now, that word system, let's unpack it a little bit. Okay. What's in there is that there are no processes that people follow to ensure that if, for example, the simple excuse you get is when I train on service delivery, I said, okay, look at your mandate as a ministry. This is what you do. Okay, you issue licenses, for example. How long does it take to get a license out of you if somebody has provided all that is needed? And some of the agencies of government, really, I must say to you, have done very well in this regard. I don't want to publicize that. But there are some that will tell you in 6 weeks, if everything is ready, you will get your license. Now, you have a right to complain if after 6 weeks and you have fulfilled all these requirements and it doesn't happen. But what happens in most cases is people go through the back door once, there are one or two bottlenecks here and there. But because each ministry or minister, for example, is not asked from time to time what is the level of service that is received, and there are no metrics to track what's going on in these agencies. Where you have them, sometimes
I sorry to interject. I equally think that our attitude is just wrong. I have an agency of a commission actually that gives licensing, and officially they tell you go to the bank, pay a certain amount, and in 3 days your licensing will be out. Trust me, you pay that amount, in 2 weeks, your licensing is not out. But you call an officer of that commission, you give them, I think about, officially they said it's 8,000. Maybe by the time you have this indices, we probably know who I'm talking about. Officially it's 8,000. But when you call an officer, they'll tell you, pay 15, you get it tomorrow.
Yes.
And I happen to know this person, and I was like, why do I have to? I'm complaining to you that this is it. He said, if you want to follow that process, you wait forever.
Yes.
And there's nobody I can complain to.
Now, I don't think that there's no one to complain to is completely
Well,
true. But you see, this is what happened. I'll give
they
you a
know
typical,
it.
I'll give you a typical scenario. It's a failure of service delivery.
Yeah, it is.
Because when you go to these offices, they create real and imaginary opportunities for rent. I have had the cost to go and get my driver's license.
That was what I was looking about.
Okay, now I went to the office. I won't name the office because I've named them a couple of times on national TV. And I saw that there were close to 300 people there. I got there, I've paid in the bank, I brought my teller,
And all
then
that.
the lady said, oh, you need to pay 1,000 there. I
Again.
said, okay, I went outside, there were 2 queues, I was on one. And then by the time I got to the end of that first queue, I said, no, this is not the place where you do it. It's
So
the
you
next
now
one.
start all over again.
So now at that point, you see, this is what I said, there's a vicious cycle that happens. Because now I'm already getting very angry.
Yeah.
And then I go to the next line, I get this done, come back inside and say, oh, you need to take a test, you need to buy this CD. Okay,
It's
I take
crazy.
the test and then, oh, you have to come back in 2 days to do your capture. And I sat there.
You
and there
couldn't
was
do
a
your
lady,
capture that same day.
now there's a lady that came in after me and was already shouting on these guys. And I said to the guy, now you see, this is the problem. If you define your services well,
Clearly.
you won't have this problem. No, how can we do that? Blah, blah, blah. I said, now listen, if I come here and there are signs to say if you are paying for encoding, which is the name of this 1,000 business, this is your line. I see encoding clearly. I go there onto the line. I don't get the initial.
Or they keep an officer who helps tell people for
Now,
those who can't read.
put up another sign that says this is where you take the test, the driver's test, to be sure that you know the rules in the book. And we will schedule only 30 persons
A day.
per day. Every one of us has things to do. So at the end of the day, I had to go to the office like 4 times to get my license. But I did it deliberately so that I could walk through that process. And when I was going, at the end of the 4th visit, I said to the guy, now you are setting up a vicious cycle, and this is what all of you do in the
Every
civil
day.
service and the public sector. When I come to the VIO's office, like I've done, and it's taking me this frustrating 4 days to get a license out of you for which I have paid and for which I have a right to collect it, then what it means is I am already angry about your service.
Yeah.
The next time I'm a doctor, God help you, you show up in your uniform as VIO.
I would treat you the same
Exactly.
way. I have
And
this
so-
bias.
And so this is what happens, and this is where the cycle of failure, service failure, and
Begins.
goes around and around, and everybody is saying, oh, this is the system. But those are little things that happen. I mean, case in point, another one, there are some agencies that do traffic management. You sit there, and this is not VIO now, the other one. And on a Monday morning, especially along my road, just outside of the city gate, you
Yeah.
find 4, 5, 6 of them blocking a particular lane. And
Creating
then this
traffic.
is the point they are now looking for license, genuine license and things like that.
fake one.
Somebody is going to work on a Monday morning. That is not what
The
you're doing.
time.
Your service is to ensure that the traffic lanes
Flows
are open
well.
and flows and people can go to work. Now, somebody who's been distracted for 20, 30 minutes asks that
Gets
his
to
license
work
is not.
angry
I
and
mean,
all
the whole
that.
day is spoiled.
Yeah.
Now, that person shows up at work and then sees somebody in your uniform. It's not just you.
You, yeah.
I mean, so it's natural. So there's a cycle around this. And going back to the example,
yeah.
when you set clear standards, if it's 30, I said to him, you've got 2 computers in this room. That means in a day, if NEPA behaves as NEPA, that means you can't capture, really, these 300 people out here, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Even
So-
if they had more
So
than that.
what you can do is say, okay, 30 people today, send text messages to them, show up at our office in 2-3 hours. Even when there is no, public power, you could then get petrol or diesel and do
An
the 30.
alternative.
Now, all these other ones you want to do under the table for a while, you can then do. But those 30 will leave
Happy.
satisfied that they've been served. And I now left a final note. I said, when you sit on this desk and you don't deliver services that satisfies people, a day is coming, you're going to need that service.
Agreed.
And when you show up to receive that service,
You'll be treated
it will
the
be
same way.
worse. No, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, worse.
It
you're
gets
right.
worse. And it's going to be worse by the time you come back. And so the link with that and corruption is that people then try to insulate themselves against
Okay,
those
we
systems.
have a caller, Mr. Okay, so we're going to be taking the caller very
Hello?
quickly.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, can I make a contribution?
Hello,
My name
may
is
we
Ben.
have
I'm
your
calling
name
from
and where you're
Woodbury.
calling from?
I'd like to, I think, congratulate your guest, Akin. I think the point he's making is very true. The problem with Nigeria is that Nigerians do not have a quality standard, a service standard, and so they don't know what to expect. If you walk to a licensing office, as you are saying, you don't know what to expect, so you get anything.
That's true.
If you go to anywhere and you don't know what to expect, you then take anything and say thank you. And that is why corruption will not end, because we then keep encouraging people who are full-time salary. We're paying them for the job they have been paid for already. We're giving them additional income. So if we can have every public organization define their service standards and charters, so that I can then know for sure, if I don't get this service within so and so day, you will pay me this. I tried it very often when I stay at the Sheraton when I used to visit Abuja. I go to the Sheraton, I look at their in-room menu. They talk about 30 minutes for delivering in-room service. I order a pizza. I know it's going to take them 45 minutes. I order it, and they come in 45 minutes. I say, thank you. I take it for free. They complain. I say, no, your menu said so. You say, if I don't get it for 30 minutes, it's free. And then the manager comes, oh, God, please, we beg now. We are sorry. I'm sorry. I cannot go back on this. This is what you committed to. So I get a free pizza from them for not keeping to their standards. So if we can get every public organization and institution to define their standards and then ask Nigerians, I mean, you go to the airport, you're delayed for 1 hour. There is no compensation. There's no apology.
Yeah,
You're delayed for 2 hours. Your flight is cancelled. What is the remedy for that you would suffer? You suffer some inconveniences. Yeah. What do you get from that? So we should commit to a service standard and service standards across the country, so that we would then be able to enforce them as citizens. I have a right to say, look, I don't like the way I'm being treated, and this is what I do. This is what I would like to do. I stand with your guest to say, yes, truly, public service needs to rededicate themselves to service standards and service charters, so that citizens can then hold them accountable for what they deliver or do not deliver. Thank you very much.
We don't know your name. We didn't get your name. That's it. Yeah, that's very profound, everything he said. Especially the airport, you go, the airlines will cancel or delay your flight, but if you miss your timing, you pay extra. Yeah. So when they miss your own timing, what do they pay? I'm sorry is what they tell you.
Yeah. And part of this is because we don't clearly define service. I mean, look at the example he gave.
Yeah. Ordering for pizza or shawarma.
Fully well that, look,
30 minutes won't do it.
They've made a mistake in their process.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay for that every time he shows up. And anybody else now who knows that can take advantage of that. And there's nothing you can do because
it's written there.
Now, part of the challenge that we had while I was, consulting directly for government was that then people complained. I mean, civil servants say, I mean, there are no budget releases, so we can't do some of those things that you insist that we do. And again, that's service failure. Somebody is responsible for ensuring that
the budget is released.
The budget is released for
sorry, Mr. Okay. We have another caller. Good morning. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Charles Ugu.
Kurudu Charles, go ahead,
from
please.
Abuja. I appreciate this program today.
We really can't hear you.
The type of public enlightenment we are learning from. Let me talk on this VIO topic. The worst part of it to me, my experience is that I walked to the VIO office myself. I got driving license, insurance license. I went outside on my way. Still VIO arrested me, said that my driving license I got from their office is fake. So follow up what my brother there is saying. All these instructions are supposed to put there so that the people will know what are they doing and what are they putting there. The system in Nigeria is affecting every corner, not only the VIO. The same thing happens to different places. If I go to hospital, same thing. You will be in the queue.
Hello, are you still there, Charles? Hello? I think we lost him.
Again, he touched on the hospital.
Now, yeah. if he had gone to the VIO office and the document they gave him happened to be invalid, which he shouldn't know, and the same VIO arrest him, what should he do? Because if you stand, they will just seize your vehicle. They could rough handle you.
Yeah, yeah.
We've seen, there was a case 2 weeks ago where a man said they beat him up.
Yeah,
They don't have that right.
I've had that. And you see, this is, look at it this way. Once they frustrate you or you're frustrated, I mean, in my case, I said I went 4 times. Once you are frustrated by that system, you don't have so much time. 70 to 80% of Nigerians live on the street. They've got to earn their living on the street. So they don't have so, and so the interface with government is so unfriendly that they don't want to even have anything to do with government. And so you show up in the VIO office and you see somebody who is in the VIO uniform and says, look, we could help you get this thing done in a few hours. And then he trusts this person.
Because he's an officer.
Because he's in the uniform, and that carries some form of officialdom and they work with. Now, he touched on hospitals, and I want to go there again. You see, Nigeria loses close to 80 billion annually to medical tourism. And this is not because we don't have hospitals. It's not because we don't have personnel. Yes, they are not enough. And it is not because we don't have what it takes to deal with some of these issues that people have to go abroad for. But the heart of medicine, of caring for people, of showing up promptly to administer medicine, to see patients and go on. The service providers in the hospitals, in Nigerian hospitals, you find very hostile environments. In fact, if you're not the patient, you get worn out. Oh, go from here to the pharmacy, go to there to the lab, go to this, and everybody is treating you like they're doing you a favor.
Yes.
Forgetting that there are 3 C's that comes when you are a citizen. Government, in dealing with government services or public services, you are a citizen primarily, which gives you some rights. Sometimes you are the customer of government. Sometimes you are the client. All these have different arrangements that are not defined. And this is where there are loopholes for opportunities for rent seeking and corruption. So if we will do well by ourselves, fix our hospitals, they can't be 100% world standard overnight. But most of the things that people go abroad for, there are centers of excellence in Nigeria where they can be done.
Agreed.
But the problem now arises when you're supposed to give somebody some drug at 10 a.m. And the service provider, you need to go to the station to call for help so that they can administer it. It doesn't happen automatically. And some of this medicine, you need to maintain a certain concentration in the serum for you to be healed. So these are the lapses that make sure that ensures that anybody who can afford it goes out. And when you go out, it comes back onto this dollar business that we've just been talking about. So we are doing ourselves a lot of disservice when the public sector doesn't deliver services in those key areas, education, health, infrastructure, and security, by the way. So it's all encompassing. This corruption business, the last time I was writing something up in the papers, I wrote an article and I said, look, we can't fight corruption if you don't solve the service delivery problem.
Yeah, agreed.
There's a minimum standard with which every citizen should be given. Now, if you want something extra on top, then you pay the premium.
Okay, I think that more of it is that citizens should be empowered. It's more of the fact that the servants, the public servants are empowered, and the citizens are they are the vulnerable. I think the table should be turned. These guys are serving us. They should begin to serve us.
That is true. But you see, at our level of development, the infrastructure isn't there for citizens yet to be able to make what I call an effective demand. So what you need right now is the political will. And I'll give you a classic case. There was a time government started this thing called Servicom. And that government, from the top, drove the agenda to the point where everybody started,
Servicom,
and you could go there and complain and expect that something happens. But then, the moment there was no political will to push services,
died away.
that look at our budget. We are spending close to 70% of our income to service the public sector. and this is the public sector that should deliver the
us.
services to you. So if you say to me as a government, you want to lift people out of poverty, please break it down. How exactly are you going to do that? Because for me, it's very simple. All you need to do is fix education, fix health. Fixing meaning get people to do what they are paid to do. You don't need extra money to do that. Just ensuring that somebody supervises the supervisor and supervises the supervisor. Once we do that, we're going to save ourselves all this foreign exchange business that we're troubling ourselves over. We will have an economy that functions. People will be, the service industry alone would begin to reflate our economy. It sounds simplistic, but you see, I've gone through a spectrum with you. The vicious cycle it affects everyone, including the civil servants themselves.
It does.
And when I discuss with, and I've had cause to discuss with some top civil servants in the past, and they also are kind of frustrated with the system, and I go home and I'm laughing. And I say, look, you are here to fix this, and then you are ignorant in quotes, and you pretend, because I think it's pretense. Fix your corner. Let everybody fix his corner.
And then everything is fixed
Everything
after
is
all.
fixed after all.
Wow.
Right. Let me ask you this. Do you think there's actually a disconnect somewhere? That's one. Or you think successive governments actually failed, in ensuring that this service delivery, are actually checkmated? Or you feel there is a moral bankruptcy that is causing all of this? Because the government who said this is what we want to do, there are people that are expected to drive some of these policies of government, and when it gets to their table, they feel like subchanging and all of that, for their own personal gratifications and all of that. And maybe the next person on the next table, also want to, get something out of it. So do you think there is a moral bankruptcy, there is a disconnect, or there is no political will, like you rightly said?
I think it's a mixture of the three. You've like I was trying to say earlier, if you are committed to, okay, let's say, for example, we want to do school feeding right now. That's what we are hearing. And then government puts money in some pot and says, okay, go and do it. Somebody somewhere in some agency of government, they don't need to create a new agency. There are agencies all over the place that are supposed to track these things. Somebody should have a dashboard that says, okay, we've given 10,000 meals here today. And how do we ensure that those 10,000 meals continue to happen day in, day out for the school term? Somebody needs to look at it. If nobody is looking at it, you just make the pronouncement, leave the money, it disappears. We drop the ball at that point. Now, most political, public servants, and I mean this with politicians, political office holders, don't appreciate the fact that service delivery is a process. And it's a process that must be meticulously
Adhered to.
You can't say, we've voted X billion naira to this, and so please it will solve
Everybody go to
itself.
sleep.
No, it won't solve itself. There are processes that needs to be followed, and there are people at every point that needs to be accountable to. I mean, it's Nigerian civil service. It's almost impossible to fire somebody for not doing his job. That needs to change. I'm not saying they should fire everybody at every flimsy excuse, but I'm saying set a performance target. So this MDA, for example, I mean, I would have expected when we were doing our Senate screening and the Jamboree to say, look, whoever is going to be Minister of Health, get me some indices.
Yeah.
All these terrible indices that we share with Pakistan and Iraq and Afghanistan, we should look at those indices and say, okay, where are the problems? Let's fix this one that can be fixed. I mean, I was running a workshop the other day for some state government in its executive retreat, and I said, look, your state has one of the highest under 5 mortalities in this country. It means you're losing 152 kids every day.
year.
And I said, look, you might not know what that means, but look at the Boeing, the A300, that airplane. It takes about the 140. So it means every day in your state.
Is it daily or monthly?
Daily in your state. If you look at, and this is data from National Bureau of Statistics, you loading children under 5 and crashing that plane. And they were looking at me, and the next question that came out was, look, if we spend all this money fixing everything, how are we going to win the next election?
Jesus is Lord.
So there is a lack of understanding.
It's a selfish no. They have understanding. They're just being selfish.
So you look at some of these things and say, if I was the governor of a state, I'm going to look at my commissioner for health in the face and say to him, what's the under 5 mortality in my state? What's the maternal mortality in my state? What do we need to do to bring these numbers down? That is real, because then it means every primary health care center would have somebody there when a woman wants to give birth.
Yeah.
Things that kill under 5 children are known. Malaria, diarrhea. There are basic things that can be done. There are companies in Nigeria that can provide us ORS, all of these things. It costs nothing. Get them into the hospitals in those numbers. Once it's there and everybody knows it's there, nobody is going to sell it. It's not going to be attractive.
Yeah.
And if you sell and somebody reports you and you get fired or you get sanctioned or you get disgraced, somebody sits up. So these things it sounds easy, but it's actually easy. All it takes is the commitment at the top. And I keep saying this. We are a society that is, there's a lot of power difference. It's in our culture. And we could use those elements of our culture to drive change if we really want to do it. I mean, remember when we started this current dispensation, the body language, blah, blah, blah. Body language is not enough. You've got to do the work, do the numbers, walk the process. And these things are in books. They've been practiced everywhere else and it have worked. So if we are committed to do it at the very top, then it's possible to get it done.
Now, you made a very, very valid point. I think that has to do with our moral bankruptcy and all of that. Now, you also said the political will, especially from the top. But we've seen, even in this present dispensation, where the CBN was secretly recruiting people, despite the fact that the man at the top has been adjudged to be, let me just hang it there. So do you still think that the people will need maybe an integrity test or integrity cleansing, if there's any word like that? Because either we like it or not, these things are affecting us on a daily basis. And we cannot just afford to allow things to go the same way and expect a different result.
Now, things are changing, by the way. 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have had some of these things that are coming up. And I remember that one of the things that I've discussed recently is that social media
has helped.
It's transforming and bringing some. I mean, the fact that we know that some of these things have happened means that there's a consciousness in everybody that someone is looking.
Yeah.
Even if something doesn't happen now or nobody does something now, there's a movement towards checkmating some of these things. Whoever is going to do that next time is going to think twice. And I'm not sure this is over yet. I don't know details of it, but I'm not sure it's over yet. So it's we just need to keep strengthening those institutional and capacity. The civil society, the media, like you guys, we need to keep searching, putting the light on it, and saying, look, how can we do this better? It is possible. It can be done. It's been done everywhere else around us, even countries that are not as well endowed as ours.
Nigeria.
I'm not saying go world class overnight. Look, what we currently have,
somewhere.
Let's set it up in a way that we can then track what's going on and then build on it incrementally.
All right, Aki, actually, we thought we were going to talk for 30 minutes, but ironically, we've talked more than that. Honestly, we can go on and on.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we can always call on you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for coming around. We've been talking with AkinOke. He's a governance consultant. Apparently, he's got so much experience in government and consultancy for the government. We will bring him again, trust me. Of course, the time is kicking and clicking. We need to know what is happening in the world of sports. Don't go anywhere. I think it's Ebenezer joining us to talk about sports. Don't go anywhere.